Finally back. We are about from the time of this recording, there's 12 days to get to the bubble, and we're all pretty excited for that. Hopefully, Corona Chan doesn't mount an invasion against it, and we get basketball back, as I'm sure we've all been looking forward to. I know I was doing terribly without having any basketball back in April and May, when it would normally be the end of the season into the playoffs. So hopefully, we'll get a nice little conclusion to this season now. But anyway, we got the crew here, so we can just go around introducing ourselves. First of all, I'm the host of this podcast, Sierra McCry, the Patriot 5000. Go by a few different names. Um, Meg, if you want to introduce yourself. And I'm a Spurs fan. Grew up in Houston, but I'm a Spurs fan, and yeah, I've been hosting this podcast for a while, but we have been on sort of a long hiatus since the last episode. But we figured that this new bubble thing is kind of a good opportunity to get back into it. So, Meg, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, Mang. Yeah, the it's just better for me. Like, having a bubble, having this bubble thing, I can watch games easier. Like games are 5 a.m. where I live. I'm a Lakers fan and also Pelicans fan. Brandon Ingram is my favorite player in the NBA. So wherever he goes, I go. Yeah, and I got some hot
Greetings, my
takes.
fellow degenerates. I'm a foreign Celtics fan, and possibly I'm a a quasi Rockets fan this season due to their micro ball.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. Okay. So I guess we'll start off with the first discussion question. What teams are you got? What teams are you guys looking forward to seeing in this restart? What teams do you think might be like adversely affected by the circumstances of this restart, and what are you looking forward to the most about the season returning? We'll start with you, Tofu.
Starting with what teams I think can be adversely affected. Possibly the Lakers. I know like Rondo isn't like their most impactful player, or nor like
Hmm.
he's really like an important player, but he's still like he's a part of that locker room. He does receives a good amount of minutes in that backup point guard position, and like his attitude towards the restart, as well as like other players like Dwight Howard. I see their locker room, like I know they love being around each other, but it's just I can see it unraveling. I don't think that the whole team is really unified together, and obviously like they do have LeBron and Davis who can basically power through anything. But yeah, I think it will be interesting to see the Lakers like try to tackle these chemistry problems, or shall I say potential problems.
Right, and like I know that in that lineup with Rondo, well I know Rondo a lot of the lineups are actually like
So
pretty negative with
yeah, the lineups are
Rondo instead
terrible.
of Caruso.
So
To be fair,
like
like Caruso is an excellent role player. Like his
Right, he
defensive,
is.
honest.
But like in terms of on the court, losing Rondo may not be that big of a deal.
it might make them better. Like a lot of fans, they kept saying that don't play Rondo because
Right.
he's injured,
Yeah, I
and then
remember
they
people
Yeah,
played him
saying
yeah,
that.
sometime.
absolutely. But I was talking like more of a locker room thing, like
Mm.
Well, he's
him
still in a
being,
bubble, and he's like,
yeah, yes, exactly my point. Like if he's in the bubble and he's like not really happy, will that like drag down the happy atmosphere inside the Laker locker room?
I don't think so. He's gonna be like coach out there.
Yeah, I
Fair,
mean, I
fair,
guess we'll see.
fair.
Um, so, and what teams are you looking forward to seeing the most, and why, Tofu? I know you talked about how you're very interested in the Rockets micro ball, and that'll be coming back. What else do you think would be particularly interesting about the way things are set up in this bubble?
I'm more interested in the Eastern teams besides the Rockets, because for the Western teams, I think they, even if their form is not good after the restart, they will still play like in a similar way. But if for the Eastern teams, a lot can change. I feel that like when you take a look at the Celtics, the Sixers, the Raptors, they all can play very differently due to the makeup of their teams. They don't really have that. that heliocentric system. So basically, they will be looking at form on offense and defensively. Obviously, they're very solid, but
Hmm.
I feel that these teams are more volatile regarding the COVID-19 situation. So I do want to see how they will react, and obviously, I think that the East will be much more exciting from the second round and on, due to like these uncertainties as well as how close all non-Milwaukee teams are from like 2 to 6.
Right. Well, I mean, the seeding seems to be like pretty set in the East. It doesn't look like there's like a whole lot of movement to be had. I mean, from like maybe five, like 5 and 6, the Pacers and the Sixers are both at 14 games behind, and then at 7 is the Nets, who are 22.5 games behind. Maybe there could be some movement between 4 and 6. You have the Heat, which are 12, and then the Pacers and Sixers, like I said, which are 14 games
How
behind.
many games are the Celtics back? Behind the Raptors. I
6.5. I mean, well,
oh
no,
six.
three games behind
Uh,
the Raptors.
3 games behind. Yeah, there might be movement in 2-3.
It's possible, yeah. There's a decent chance for it. And I think there isn't that many games being played in the restart, right? It's like I think it's like 8 games, right?
Yeah, yes, it's eight
Yeah.
games, and the Celtics do have like some of the one of the easiest schedules.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean most of the teams that are going to be in the bubble are like pretty solid teams, and I mean you even have teams that like are very like that can like upset you on like any given night. So,
For sure, absolutely.
so it'll be interesting
I
to watch how the rest of the regular season plays out.
Yeah, I'm I'm also like sitting like watching this 8 to 10 or 11 fight for the fight for the eighth seed in the West. I
Oh
feel
yeah, it's
that
gonna be
any team
intense.
can get in.
Yeah, that will be intense. And plus, like the thing about it that's interesting about the West 8 seed battle is that it's totally in flux. Like and like yeah, like you said, you got the Suns, the Spurs, the Kings, Pelicans, and the Blazers. And the Grizzlies, of course, that are presently the 8 seed, all have a chance, and they can all give themselves a chance. And the situation is so in flux with like the bubble situation, the fact that it's very difficult to get into the bubble, and you have players already like Zion who left the bubble, and it's going to be harder for him to get back in. And you have stuff like the Spurs who will not have LaMarcus Aldridge, or there's another player that we're not going to have for the restart. It's like whenever no, I know, but there was this other player that we were also not gonna have for the restart. I just can't put my finger on him right now. And so you have a lot of that. Oh, and De'Aaron Fox too with the Kings. He injured his ankle within the bubble, so there's a whole lot of things that can make this race for the 8 seed.
They're in the bubble.
Yeah, no, De'Aaron
They
Fox
shouldn't
injured
be.
himself in the what?
They shouldn't be in the
What did
bubble.
he injure this time around?
He injured his ankle. De'Aaron Fox did.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and what you said they shouldn't be in the bubble? I think the teams are like in the bubble in like waves. Like it'll be like a few teams a day to going into the bubble. You
Yeah,
know what I
the
mean?
22 format is overkill.
The 22 format.
Yeah,
I I
the
I would have liked to I would have liked to see them do like a group stage type thing. Just go straight into the playoffs and do like a group stage type thing, like kind of like
I think that in
soccer.
the bubble,
Eh,
even though there's like
no, I think the group stage thing would not work in basketball like it would in football, because in football you have home and away legs, but in this neutral ground you really don't have that sort of home and away
Right, it's
situation.
basically neutral site. Yeah.
but I think like for young teams, this group stage thing will be good because it's like a mini playoffs, so they could get a lot of reps in this environment. I think
Well,
young teams will thrive in this bubble.
interesting.
To me, like the only group stage should happen between like 8 and 11 or 12. I forgot how many teams are in that that 8 to whatever spot in the West.
How many teams are fighting for the 8 spot? You mean?
Yeah, how many teams are like fighting for that final playoff spot?
It's 5. So you have the Grizzlies, and then you have wait,
8 till 13.
Yeah, and then you
Pistons,
have
Lakers, Pelicans, Kings, Spurs, and Suns.
yep.
Yeah, so like hold a group stage for them, and like maybe play some regular season games like between
Well,
the other teams.
they
Uh,
are that's kind of what they're planning to do. Like they're gonna play like the rest of the regular season games. Like it's mostly like for example the Spurs. They're gonna be playing Sacramento, Memphis, Philly, Denver, Utah, New Orleans, Houston, and Utah again. So, well, it's some of it's going to be against teams fighting. Well, actually, just three games against teams fighting for the eighth seed. So yeah, they'll be playing. But yeah, that would also be a good idea. Like for the teams fighting for the eighth seed. I think that kind of got thrown around a little bit, where it's like let's have these teams like do like a round robin or something like that for the eighth seed, because everyone else's seed is like kind of almost determined. There's a pretty low
yeah,
chance.
they're
Yeah.
pretty much like locked up. So I don't
Right.
see the point for for the other teams to fight for seeding. Like maybe teams like the Celtics and Raptors do want to fight it out because 2-3 is pretty big in assuming that
Right.
they make it out of this first round, but it's far and few in between.
I'm wondering if there's like an advantage between being in the two seed versus the three seed. So the
There
seven
is
seed
like
appears to be the Nets. It's gonna probably be the Nets, or well, it could be the Magic actually. And then the six seed is either gonna be the Pacers or Sixers.
any
Yeah,
team getting the Sixers in the playoffs is going to have a rough time.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'd rather have the second seed, 100%.
to deal with like the Pacers maybe.
No, I mean, I want to deal with the Nets.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. You're
They
right.
don't have Kyrie.
Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, true, true, true. Yeah.
to be
There's a.
honest, like I want if I were the second seed, I want the Nets with Kyrie instead of the
Come
Nets
on,
without Kyrie.
come on, man.
No, come on.
Step up over here.
I know like he's a really good player, but have you watched that series where he shot us out of the series against the Bucks? Like I know, like he's a
Yeah.
great player. Like
Who's
with the right
Kyrie?
support, he's excellent. There's no doubt about that. But this is a lad who really just like he flies away. His mind flies wherever it is. Like when the situation's not going right for him. Like
So
at
who's
least
gonna
this
play
is what
instead of
I got
Kyrie?
from the 2 years he played in Boston.
What are you saying, man?
Who's gonna play instead of Kyrie? Like
Well, they have Dinwiddie, right? I think he tested
exactly.
positive
Yeah,
for
they have
coronavirus,
Dinwiddie.
but
So,
he'll be able
And
to get into the bubble.
what's their guard rotation without Kyrie?
Let me look at their depth. Um, yeah, they're gonna have. Oh yeah. Oh, they got Jamal. They took on Jamal Crawford, didn't they? Um, yeah, I guess they can mess around with. Oh, and apparently Tyler Johnson is on the Nets now too. Wow, I had no idea.
Still rather
Um,
have Kyrie.
yeah, their guard depth is actually pretty good. So basically, like my line of thinking is that yes, Kyrie is like like top 10, top 15, whatever. Like in when the support is actually good, but without the support, like he does, like to me, he does show the
Always
tendency
chasing something.
to wave
Always.
to just throw the white flag when things are not going well.
yeah, I hear what you mean. But yeah, I mean, I think getting matched up against the Nets is pretty solid because it's fine because, I mean, they just don't have like a lot of like power, you know. Um, so I think a team like the Raptors or the Celtics would be able to make quick work of them, honestly. So yeah, there's a lot of good motivation going into getting that second seed.
Yeah, and to be honest, like if uh any team gets like maybe the Raptors or Celtics, either of them get the third seed, it wouldn't be that bad if the Sixers actually managed to get the fifth seeds because to me, like the Pacers are really the epitome of a great regular season team who doesn't really hold that strength. He doesn't really have that staying power in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
they just don't have star power. They're just kind of gotten used to playing without Oladipo, so they've kind of been able to manage, but they can't like they're not going to be able to beat a team better than them in the playoffs. They're just not going
Yeah,
to be able to.
like the way I see it, it's not like just star power. Like it's the way they do things. Like they really like they don't have that system where they can guarantee playoff success. They are not a dominant defensive team. Their offense isn't that resilient. I know that they manage with Sabonis and like Malcolm Brogdon, and they have like a lots of good pieces. But again, like one, they don't have star power. That's very clear. But again, like
Hmm.
they don't have that system in place where they can play like greater than the sum of their parts in a playoff setting. They can do it in
Yeah,
a regular season, but
for real.
in a playoff setting, I don't really see it.
Yeah, I feel that. Let's actually talk about let's go ahead and talk about the West. I'm itching to talk about. Okay, let's start with the battle for the eighth seed. So like we said, we had the Grizzlies who are 18 games behind, the Blazers which are 21.5 games behind, Pelicans and Kings who are also 21.5 games behind. So that would be 3.5 behind behind the Grizzlies. And then we had the Spurs who are 22 games behind, and the Suns which are 24 games behind. What who do you so like let's just talk about like who we think has the best shot for the eighth seed. And I guess I'll start. Personally, see, like this is a sort of a conundrum for me because like I don't like right now the Grizzlies look pretty good to get it because they're 3.5 games ahead and there's only going to be I believe 8 games played in the restart. So, but the Grizzlies look pretty good with it because they have um they're 18 games behind, and they're currently at the 8th seed and 3.5 games above the next team. But the Grizzlies' schedule, they got Portland, San Antonio, New Orleans, Utah, OKC, Toronto, Boston, Milwaukee. All teams they could realistically lose to, except maybe Portland. But they look I mean, but I don't know. They've looked pretty decent. I mean, they've won some games that I would not have expected them to win. Like they won against like the Lakers in February. Um but they had this string of 5 losses where they lost to the Clippers, lost to Houston, lost to Sacramento. They had another loss to like Dallas back in March. So at this point, it's just like really hard to say. I mean, I feel like the Grizzlies, if I had to like put a meaningful amount of money on it and say, okay, which team makes the AC or else you lose this money. I mean, I'd probably put it on the Grizzlies because it just looks like the better bet right now. Um, Maybe second, I could put it on the Blazers. I could maybe hedge it on the Blazers perhaps, but I mean the Blazers haven't played very awe-inspiring basketball either. Like I've been kind of waiting this whole season, right, for like the Blazers to like figure it out. I remember when they started off pretty weak. They had this game early on where they lost to the Warriors, like the strapped freaking Warriors, and who have like nobody right now. And I was like, okay, this is whatever. The Blazers is taking a while to get their groove together. Damian Lillard, he's a great player. He'll figure it out and he'll carry them like he always does. And then they just continue to drop games and drop games and drop games and drop games. And so I'm just like, um, maybe they're not going to get back to that. Maybe those Nurkic and Zach Collins injuries just were too much for him. Right now they're saying that Nurkic and Zach Collins looking more like themselves, but who knows how they're going to be able to integrate them into meaningful basketball now, especially considering they've been playing the whole season without him. Um,
To be fair, like I think they will be able to integrate both of them like pretty nicely. Like Zach Collins is a pretty good defender, like except for doing traditional center things, like he's pretty mobile, big man, and Nurkic. I think the system that Portland runs is pretty suited for a guy like Nurkic, so I don't think it's that big of an issue. As for the teams that I think will likely make the playoffs, I think it's the same three teams, but with a different ranking for me. I think the team with the highest probability of making that final eighth spot is probably the Pelicans.
mm,
Again, like I don't have the strength strength of schedule. So I can't really definitively say which team is
Here,
which. But
I got it for you.
I thank you.
It's so they play Utah, then they play the LA Clippers, then Memphis, Sacramento, Washington, San Antonio, Sacramento, and Orlando.
How about the Grizzlies? Was it the one that you just said just now where they had a bloodbath of games?
Yeah, Portland, San
And
Antonio, New
again,
Orleans,
teams
Utah, OKC, Toronto, Boston, Milwaukee.
and the Blazers
Yeah,
are the hardest.
yeah. Then I'll put my money on the Pelicans. I think they will get a ref a refing advantage because again, like the NBA just wants to see Zion in the playoffs.
First round against LeBron, man.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I can't lie. I
yeah,
can't say I
like out
wouldn't
of
want
the
to see
teams,
that though.
yeah, but out of the three teams, the team that I do not want to see is the Grizzlies. I think that they'll be absolutely
Oh
destroyed.
yeah, I
Like,
agree. I agree.
like I I understand why the NBA like they wanted that like these 8 games because no one wants to see the Lakers steamrolling the Grizzlies. Like I don't want to see
Yeah.
it. Like it's not just about like people will point to my bias because the Celtics have the Grizzlies pick, but again, it's not about that. It's about the playoffs. I just simply don't want to see the Lakers having a first round, the equivalent of a first round bye.
Yeah, I'd rather see like I think it'd be much more interesting to see them play the Pelicans. No, I totally agree. Um,
And
j
to be
j
fair, like I think the Blazers will give them some trouble because again, Damian Lillard and his teammates, they are tough to handle when they are on.
I don't know if you saw, but I put the end of season schedules for the Grizzlies, Pelicans, and Blazers in the chat, so you can look at that for reference.
Yeah, the Blazers schedule is brutal. I don't think they're gonna make it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Looking at their schedule, they'll probably bomb out.
Something really exciting about the Blazers is that they pretty much had like a mini off season in the middle of the season, and they're all so young that you know I think their games are gonna take another leap this during the bubble.
Mm,
the Blazers.
maybe. No, the
The
Pelicans.
Pelicans,
You probably
Hmm,
probably meant the
like Lonzo and
Pelicans.
Ingram. Ingram's gonna show up with some new stuff.
interesting.
Yeah,
Eh,
Ingram's gonna
eh.
cook.
Uh, I don't quite believe that. I think it's going to start with Zion and end with Zion.
Well, that's true, but like Zion right now is a bit a one-dimensional player. Like you just throw him the ball and he'll dunk it. And he still needs
Yeah, so
he needs help.
basically, like what I'm getting at is that he'll get better at passing and making those reads that he showed in college,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
like he do like more of that stuff in what he showed in college, as well as getting better on defense. Like he was shambolic at defensively before the restart, like no, like before the coronavirus break.
Mm, yeah, I yeah, but like I said, probably put in my money. Man, but if I could pick who gets the East, so it would definitely be the Pelicans because you got the 2017-18 Lakers essence of it, and then you got Zion against LeBron. So I think that would just make for a very entertaining playoffs. And yeah, I mean,
Isn't it the 2018 and 19 Lakers?
that was 17-18 because LeBron went there, was there in 18-19.
True, true.
Yeah, so like the 17-18 Lakers, Lonzo, Ingram, Josh Hart. So yeah, I think that would just be pretty fun to
Uh,
see all around.
they also have Drew Holiday.
Well, Drew Holiday wasn't on the Lakers though. I was talking about
Yeah,
like the Lakers part of
yeah,
it.
I know.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, I really like their squad. Like Drew Holiday is to me is like a top 30, top 35 player. So he's borderline all star.
yeah, he's a very nice player, and I think he'll help him a lot in the restart. Um,
Like even without Zion, the Pelicans with Derek Favors is still a really good team. Like
true.
in the beginning of the season, they didn't have Derek Favors. They didn't have a real center. Once Favors came back, they started winning a lot of games and they started to compete for the eighth seed.
Oh, so Melly lost his starting job.
Yeah,
Oh, that sucks. I like his shooting. Like the lad just bombs shots from deep.
well, that's true. Like Pelicans can get some spacing problems since Zion came back. Like we saw it in the
Yeah, like
Team for
I wouldn't want Zion playing next to Favors. Though I wouldn't want Zion playing next to Favors probably. As
But at
good as
least
Favors
they're
is.
flexible. You know, like if they're up
Right,
against the Lakers and they're running a big team with AD and Dwight, you can have Zion and Favors over there.
No,
right.
not really. I think I play, a big forward next to Zion, so Zion can play center. Like use speed and quickness to, like neutralize the advantage that the Lakers have on size because Zion can probably, like help out on the boards. I think he can make it so that the Pelicans don't get crushed on the glass.
The Pelicans role players, they all the players they are good rebounders. Ingram and Lonzo are elite rebounders for their
Yeah,
size.
so,
So
so so basically like have them, help out on the glass and like hit the Lakers on the break. A very football analogy, but I know, but that's basically what I'm thinking when
if
about
Zion
a
makes,
Pelicans Lakers matchup.
if you got one guy boxing out, then everybody will get rebounds.
So
By the way, which big forwards do the Pelicans have?
okay, they got okay, well, if we're talking about power fours, then yeah, they got Melly. Maybe they could mess around with Zion there. Um,
They got Melly and Zion really.
yeah,
You
they
can
don't.
put
The other guys they have are just really centers like
you can put
Jackson
Favors
Hayes or
in power forward as well. It's just their center rotation. That's what's thin. Their forward rotation is pretty good.
Oh, all
yeah,
right.
yeah, but
They have the rookie Jackson Hayes. He plays center and Okafor. So maybe you could put one of those in center than Zion at forward.
yeah, I'd
Yeah,
rather play
sounds good.
Zion at four. Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah. So yeah, so man, which team do you think is gonna make the eighth seed?
Yeah, the Pelicans like they have the easiest schedule. It's too easy. It's too easy that it's rigged. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah,
They have the Kings.
they got Washington. Okay, the Kings. I mean, they could put up. Oh well, they're not even. Well, they may not even have De'Aaron Fox the whole time. So yeah, okay. Then they play the Kings
Yeah,
twice, with who may not have De'Aaron Fox, and then they play who like Orlando. That's another easier game. I think
and
they're
the
like
Wizards and the Spurs.
yeah, and the Spurs aren't even gonna have LaMarcus Aldridge.
They do have to beat the Grizzlies game. That's the most important game in the
Yeah,
schedule.
if they can win that, then I think they're
'Cause that's
looking
also
pretty
like
good.
makes the Grizzlies. That's one more loss for the Grizzlies, so that's more
Right.
important than.
And even if they drop the games against Utah and the Clippers, they can 100% like win the rest all the remaining games. So yeah, yeah, I like that prediction actually. As much as like yeah, because the Grizzlies like even though I said that before, they just have like their schedule's just so tough. I mean those last games against Toronto, then Boston, then Milwaukee, like that is just rough. Um, so even if you build up a little momentum by like beating like Portland, San Antonio, and like um, you beat New Orleans, you could have that offset by like the top three seeds in the East after that. So
And Utah and Oklahoma City, like those two teams are no
yeah,
for sure.
mm-mm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you guys are really making me think about that Memphis prediction. Yeah, see, because like I
I
kind of
still don't
thought.
think they're going to make it. Like the referees. I've been watching like the Premier League restart, and it's absolutely rigged. Expects some similar stuff for the NBA restart.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. Okay. Well, let's look at the current the non-8 seed playoff picture in the West. Um, okay, I'll pull up the standings. Uh, well, let's see here. Okay, I'll put this in the chat for you guys. Um, Western Conference. Okay, here we go. So, what kind of so if we look at the stratification between the games behind here, You got 4, 5, and 6 seed all pretty close together. Difference between 4 and 5 is 1 game. That's the Jazz and the Thunder. And then the Rockets are also tied for the 5th seed with the Thunder. And the Mavericks probably going to be the 7th seed. Now, I think one of the most interesting teams to watch here is probably going to be the Mavericks. If you're the Mavericks, if you're the Mavericks, definitely. Well, what do you guys think about the Mavericks here? Do you think they're capable of getting out of the first round? Do you think that they're gonna, do you think that they can, maybe even put up a fight against the Clippers, or do you think that they should really try to go for the 6th seed and see what matchup they can get? What do you think about Mavs, Tofu?
Uh,
I think they absolutely should go for six. Like I don't see them, like handling that the Clippers do. Like I know, like PG and Kawhi might not be, like the greatest offensive duo ever, but they still, like hit they are still like a really good offensive tandem, and I see the Mavericks. I don't see the Mavericks handling them because Doncic. I get that he isn't a negative on defense, but an average defender isn't going to fare well against those two.
Hmm.
I think Doncic will have a hard time in his first few playoff games, and if he starts with the Clippers, immediately like Kawhi will shut him down, George will shut him down. He's gonna have a bad series, and then this will be the beginning of like or the end of the Luka Doncic love affair.
I don't think
No,
it'll be like I don't think it'll
no.
be like the end of the Luka Doncic love affair. It'll just be like, well, he had to play against Kawhi and Paul George in his first playoff series. I
I
think we
think
can cut him some
people,
slack.
I think people are ready to end the to go after Luka Doncic.
No, I don't see that. He's not Kevin Garnett, so no.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel, yeah, maybe some people will go after him, but like, I don't think,
But yeah,
I think it's
like
hard to do
no
that.
one really wants to play the Clippers nor the
Yeah,
Lakers in the first round. Like these two teams are just so difficult to match up against with the 5 to 11 seat. Like those teams, they really have the personnel to match up against 1 and 2.
right. Yeah, I think the Mavericks could do well getting up to the 6th seed because I could see them putting up a competitive series against like the Nuggets or the Jazz if they end up there. Yeah, I could see him putting up a nice game against the Nuggets or the Jazz if they end up there. Nice series rather. And yeah, the Nuggets like I don't know, man. I don't know what I want to think about the Nuggets. A Nuggets versus Rockets series would also be pretty interesting. Um, who would you take in a Nuggets Rockets series, May?
I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
think like
I really don't
the
know either.
Rockets with Westbrook, they're like much better. Like this micro ball lineup, it's really like brought Westbrook to a new level.
Hmm.
And I don't see anyone on the Nuggets like being able to hold both Westbrook and the Harden down. I think I have to lean on to the Rockets. I don't think the Jokic has enough help to
I
deal with
mean,
them.
mm, I think it's like I think Jokic could do well. I think he could do fine in the series. I
He
mean,
will
like,
probably feast. Like we could see like Jokic 40 and 15 assists and
I
20 rebounds.
yeah, I just don't see things happening like him. I don't know. I mean the Rockets have, with their micro ball have been able to handle centers like fine, but I just don't think they're gonna be able to I just don't know if they're gonna be able to contain Jokic through a whole series. So I think he could
Like
be fine, you know.
whatever stat line Jokic gets, Westbrook is gonna get just as much.
Mm, I guess I need to put it that way. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and like I don't, and I'm not really in love with like the Nuggets guard defense either.
Yeah, me
To be
neither.
fair, like they have Harris.
Yeah, but Harris, this is kind of been a down year for Harris though.
Like he's not been the Harris of old. So, and
Right.
I don't like let's put it that way. I don't think his offense is on that level of game-changing cards,
Mm-mm.
and
Mm-mm.
I even don't like his defense.
Yeah, I don't know. It might just be like nagging injuries with him, but I just don't think his. Yeah, he's just been having a rough year right now, and I don't know if that's gonna be better in the bubble and if he's gonna look like the Harris of old. He's definitely the best guard defender, but if he's not defending like markedly better than Jamal Murray, then the Rockets are just gonna run all over them.
Yeah, Jamal Murray
Jamal Murray
is
pretty
gonna get
much
murdered.
Yeah, he
pretty
is he
much
is he is not a good defender. No.
he's pretty much a traffic cone for Westbrook and Harden. So
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think it's possible to like defend worse than him or like not markedly better than him.
Right. I mean, I think it's nice. I mean, I'm interested in seeing this skinny Joker that we've got, but and what and I think Jeremy Grant was like a nice addition. They still have like Paul Millsap, but and Mason Plumlee is like a nice body at center. So I mean, I think they have like options like after Westbrook and Harden get past their guards, but if it's like Harden at the top of the key, like breaking down Jamal Murray or something, then yeah, that's gonna be pretty rough. Or like getting Jokic switched on to him or something like that. I don't know. Um, but I mean, the Nuggets have options to like somewhat manage, I guess. But I still think, I mean, I'd still probably take the Rockets over them in a series. I think the Rockets could do well against them. Um, what else here?
Uh, Talking about Skinny Jokic, I'm actually more interested in seeing Skinny Harden.
Oh yeah, yeah, he lost a bunch of
Harden
weight
got
too,
skinny.
huh? Yeah, he lost a bunch of weight.
I didn't see that. I just saw his mask.
Yeah, about that. Um, no, he lost some weight, and I saw like some videos of him in practice, or like some pictures that looked like where his body definitely looked a little less thick. Yeah. Um, what other teams in the West? OKC. The only way I could possibly see OKC getting out of the first round is if they play the Jazz.
Uh, they are projected to play the Jazz, so good
Mm,
news.
True, yeah, but I mean the Rockets could always like jump ahead of them and play the Jazz instead, which I think would be the same result for the Jazz. Is there any situation where the Jazz would actually get out of the first round? Because I'm not seeing it currently.
If they play the Mavericks, I can see them making it out of the first round.
Interesting. Because I'm not sure I'd take them over the Mavericks.
No,
Mm,
I don't know, but I do see them, like somehow containing Doncic with their defenders. Like they do have Royce O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell is a pretty strong defender now, and obviously they have Gobert. And I just see, like Dallas getting picked off because none of their guards are like good defenders. Like, but none of their starting guards, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, they have like Dorian Finney-Smith who they can like put on guards, but I mean, he's not
Tiefling,
really
like
a
he's
guard
their
or
small
anything.
forward, so yeah.
Yeah, he's not really a guard. Let me look at their. I wonder how their season series against Dallas has been. Uh, so Dallas, Jazz. Yeah, so the Jazz have actually won both games against the Mavericks so far, which is interesting. So yeah, I mean maybe there's more to that. Maybe the Jazz could get out of the first round. They play the Mavericks, but I don't know.
Not really possible though. Like the Mavs are like 3 games back. Like I don't see them gaining that much ground.
Yeah, I mean yeah they could, but it's probably not likely. Um, So yeah, I guess besides the situation where the Mavs end up playing the Jazz in the first round, I probably don't see. Maybe I'm just trying to check with you guys because I feel like I might be a little bit too low on the Jazz.
I don't
Um,
think so. I just think that they really aren't like a really great team. Like the first thing is that, and the second thing is that the West has a lot of very good teams.
Hmm. Yeah. So
By the way, like thoughts on the Thunder, like if they get this matchup and they end up winning, like do you see them giving the Lakers any trouble?
the Jazz, you mean?
No, I meant the
They
Thunder.
make to the second round and go up against the Lakers.
Oh, the Thunder.
Yes.
No, zero.
No, no, the Lakers will have no trouble.
Like
Yeah.
that's easier than if they play the Pelicans or the Blazers.
Okay.
No, no. Don't diss Chris Paul like that.
Uh, Chris Paul never did anything in the playoffs, so
And not
I'll
not really. Like you can ask Zero about how he fares against Tim Duncan in Game 7.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, moving on. Um, I mean, so yeah, the Lakers would have a pretty easy time if yeah, I mean like the Jazz or Thunder, they're not giving the Lakers any problems. I think the Lakers are just they're just destined to go to the Western Conference Finals, barring some kind of disaster. Um, I don't really see anybody giving them that hard of a time. I think the Rockets could like make things somewhat interesting, but I don't think they're ever gonna get to the Lakers because the Clippers will eliminate them first.
Or maybe they get up to the fifth seed and they end up facing the Lakers.
The Rockets, you mean?
Yeah, the Rockets,
Uh,
they can move up, right? If they move
right.
up to like four
Yeah,
or
they're the
five.
same games behind as the Thunder, so
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think the Rockets could give the Lakers a series for sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think their micro ball is really effective against the Lakers.
Yeah, I would actually love to see that now that you mentioned that. I think that would be a great second round series rather than just letting the
Like,
Lakers
I,
walk all over the Pelicans and then walk all over the Thunder.
to be fair, like, I don't see the Lakers walking all over the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans will make it interesting.
Uh, it still seems like a 5 game series to me, honestly.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's better than them sweeping like the freaking Grizzlies or something. Um, what do you guys think the conference finals in each region looks like? In each conference looks like? I mean, can we agree on like Lakers Clippers and then agree on like I don't know, Milwaukee like
I
actually
think
who would the Milwaukee
Milwaukee
play?
Celtics.
Celtics?
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
Celtics will do.
I actually think that we will make the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I do see that the Raptors beating us, but again, I think the Celtics can make it.
I just think like this bubble thing is going to be better for younger teams than a team like the Celtics. It's just going to be better for them.
I suppose so. Who? Okay, the Heat would have to play the Bucks in the second round. Okay.
They're not getting past the box. Like, even if the Bucks like they don't get it offensively, I don't see the Heat, winning a 7 game series.
I mean, the Heat have won both games against the Bucks so far. Just saying.
Small sample size.
Yeah, they could make it interesting. It could be like a 6 game series, which would be if you're the Heat. Oh, and the Heat have made a bunch of new acquisitions too that happened right before the restart. I mean, right before the season ended.
Haven't all of them like sucked balls?
I mean, they got. I mean, what? They got Iguodala. They got Jay Crowder. Um,
Think Iguodala has, like plays like shit. So basically, the only guy who might be serviceable is Jay Crowder.
yeah, I guess Iguodala like basically sat on the bench, basically was begging to get out of Memphis the whole season, and then like he played like a few games, and then the season ended, so he's gonna be really rusty. Um, Probably not gonna be the same, but I mean, the Heat are an interesting team. They could definitely get the Bucks in trouble, but yeah, I mean the Bucks will probably still take the series. I'd bet on it being a 6 game series though. It'll be interesting. So
I
you
think
guys,
it's really pretty much like 3 teams in each conference having like making the conference finals. Like I see Los Angeles, the both LA teams in the West and Houston like those three teams are likely going to be the conference finalists, and for the East, it's basically the top three seeds.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see what else we got here. Um, so what are you guys like general thoughts on like the sort of implementation of the bubble idea? Like, do you guys think it's kind of a I mean, I think it's pretty creative, but what are your general thoughts on it and how they're kind of monitoring like entry and exit from the bubble and how they're kind of and sort of like what's how are we gonna like when you look back with a bubble, how are we gonna like remember it and stuff like that. So let's start with you, May. What are
I
your
think
general
that
thoughts on the
like
bubble?
this is gonna be one of the few times where writers are gonna be this close to the players and they could like see them for who they are. Like everyone's talking about how this is like the first time LeBron since high school he could just walk around.
Yeah, I saw that.
So like imagine being a writer in this time and then like how many books are gonna come out of this? How many documentaries are gonna come out of this? Like if the playoffs are competitive, like if we have a good playoffs basketball wives, this is gonna be one of the most historic moments in NBA. So when we look back at the bubble later on, like if the basketball is good, it's gonna be even more special.
Right. What about you, Tofu?
Hmm. I think it can go very wrong,
Oh, for
or
sure.
it can be an absolute hit, like what Mang said. So to me, like the potential for it going right is quite likely because I do like the ideas of implementing quarantine rules and obviously like testing. They're pretty strict and rigorous with it, and
Hmm.
so I see the possibility of the bubble staying sterile, like mostly sterile, is pretty high. So I think it will be a hit, but again, like there's always the possibility of it going wrong. Like you take a look at cities like Hong Kong, Singapore. These cities originally like they handled the pandemic pretty well, but then like one mishap and then it's like the second, third, fourth wave.
Right. So I think I think it's first I gotta like congratulate like I think Adam Silver's done a pretty fantastic job with this so far. I think his his attempt to implement this idea is really commendable, and I think that he's done a good job. Like you know, back in like early March, he was like kind of like one of the first to like say, okay, well we're done, we're postponing the season for now, and I think he's shown a lot of leadership with that and kind of starting this bubble thing too. We kind of like the kind of with the help of like experts and all of that, and even Dr. Fauci, um, has been um, he's been uh, he's been pretty big during all this in the United States. Got the approval of him, and he helped kind of build this idea up with experts to assist him, and I think he's done. I think the idea is pretty good. They have a lot of very strict rules, which is good. Entry into the bubble is difficult. Um, they have like you have to test negative like multiple times to be able to get into it. So I think the groundwork for it overall is pretty efficient. It's pretty solid, and I think there's a very good chance that it could just like end up going all pretty well. Once again, like Tofu said, there's always a chance that it could go very, very wrong, and like maybe you have one of those like edge cases where you get like two negative tests, but they're like false negatives or something. So then you maybe have an outbreak in the bubble, but I'm pretty optimistic about it. I'm really hoping that we get to finish the rest of the quote unquote regular season and then get through the playoffs. And I think and after you like give these players like this much of a break and then you start resuming the basketball like 4 months later, it's gonna be pretty interesting to see the level of basketball it's gonna be being played. You're hoping that we're kind of hoping that like by not going straight into the playoffs, we can give these players some little bit of time to kind of like loosen up and that little time to loosen up also gives you a little bit more time to um, for any players who left the bubble or are in quarantine or something, like Bledsoe, for example, who tested positive not too long ago. They can get a little bit of time before the playoffs begin. So hopefully by the time the playoffs begin, you've maybe had like at least one or two games with everybody back who's going to be back. Um, and with that, you can kind of get back into your groove and play your at least near your best basketball in the playoffs. So I'm definitely a fan. I think it's good that they've at least made a genuine effort to restart the season because around the world sports are at least beginning to come back. So you kind of start to get that sense of normalcy a little bit with just like, hey, well, we're gonna like try to bring this back too. And I think it'll be very exciting for a lot of people when there's not a whole lot going on. And especially in the United States, it's gonna be a freaking hit because there isn't really much like because in terms of like the big four sports, like baseball, football, basketball, and hockey, I think, there isn't really much else happening. Besides, I think the NHL is gonna start back up soon too. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll go well. I'm very excited to see what happens.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I'm pretty optimistic about the restart, and to me, like I always look back to the Premier League and how they've handled, like the traveling and all of that stuff regarding their fixtures, and so far so good. People tested positive, but it hasn't, like
Well, tell me how the Premier League's been
results.
doing it actually.
In football, it's basically like similar stuff. It's rigorous testing, like testing in some set time intervals, and after this regular testing, if a player tests positive, everyone around him has to test again, and that player is sent to quarantine. So basically,
Mm.
it's the routine, the usual for any sports event. So and it works well, even with traveling. So to me, like the major thing about what the Premier League did is that players have to travel to home and away. So I think it does give some optimism for the restart in the NBA.
Yeah, like the fact that they can do that in the Premier League and have them travel definitely bodes well, I think, because the NBA we're not even gonna have anybody traveling. It's just gonna be like you're at these resorts and then you play at these couple gyms, but it's all within like it's all within a certain like square area, and you're not gonna be traveling outside of that. So the fact that they can do that and travel and handle it fine so far is that's pretty encouraging. So that's good data to know.
Oh, one more thing to note, like I think that there's an X factor for the NBA, which is the quarantine rules. England does,
Oh man, yeah.
the British, the, the English do like they do follow the guidelines pretty much they do follow the guidelines. I'm not sure if Americans will.
Are you talking about like the players or like what? Because I mean
Like
the rules are going to be
citizens, like
enforced. Oh, go ahead.
citizens, like normal people outside of the bubble. So because I've heard that workers can go in and out of the bubble, so you might get some imported cases into the bubble, and then all hell breaks loose.
I'm thinking like, well, what I thought was that it was like, well, if you're just gonna come into the bubble to like deliver food, then like maybe you just have to test negative once. But like, I mean, if you're just coming into the bubble to like deliver a bunch of food and then leave, like that's not much of a risk because like at this point we don't really think that it can transfer through like services that efficiently. So it's not like you're gonna like, and then plus I'm sure they're probably gonna have people wiping down stuff that gets delivered into the bubble anyway.
True,
So
true.
I'm sure, so like if they're just delivering some stuff, then they'll maybe just wipe it down and it'll be fine. But if it's like some worker who's coming into the bubble who's going to stay there for a while, then they're probably going to have to go through the same stuff any player would to get into the bubble. Do you know what I mean?
True. I'm just worried about the NBA, like relaxing the protocols for such workers, because the workers do have to do this stuff daily, or like at least on a pretty frequent basis. So quarantine is not like really like it's not really realistic for them. So
Right.
it's either test them daily or like let them go in and out as they please.
No, that's the thing though. I highly doubt that they're gonna have like relaxed entry. The workers themselves will have relaxed entry rules. They're probably gonna have to test negative anytime, or one or multiple times before they enter the bubble. That's what I'm guessing. Um, or like if they're just gonna like you know go back and forth between getting something bubble, they might have to like have workers who stay in the bubble, and then they have ones who just deliver things into the bubble. And I'm sure they have like, and that's a pretty like I think it's a pretty basic layer of the logistics there. It's like, okay, well, well, when you're coming up with this bubble idea, you have to think, okay, well, how are we going to get supplies into the bubble? You have to think about the person who's delivering the supplies in there, and you have to think about the person who's gonna like take them into the bubble and unload them for the players or whatever. So I'm sure they've probably already like at least considered, and plus they've already like Doctor like Anthony Fauci said like yeah I think the plan looks pretty good. So I'm sure they've like already thought about a lot of this stuff like okay how are we gonna get supplies into the bubble? How are we gonna sanitize it once it's in the bubble, and then give it to the players? So I'm not too worried about that personally. I think that's a vector they've definitely already thought of. I think if there's anything that does like cause like an outbreak, which once again I'm pretty optimistic about not happening here. The more I think about this, um, if there is anything that does cause an outbreak, it's probably gonna be something like crazy that nobody expected. I think it's not gonna be something like a worker just walked into the bubble and sneezed. Like I doubt something like that would happen, but it'll probably just be something that's like, wow, like there's like maybe a 1% chance of that happening type thing. So,
Yeah, oh, sounds reasonable.
mm. Man, you got anything to add about the bubble situation or interesting any interesting variables regarding the bubble situation, its impact on how it could have on the standings or
No,
games
a lot
being
of
played?
people say like the bubble's like safer than the
Yeah,
rest
that
of America.
that's what Popovich was saying. Coach of Spurs, he was
I mean,
like, "I feel safer in here than I do in San Antonio," which I can't
like there's
blame him.
also a risk you have with your career. Like if you're a regular player, like a middle of the road player, like in a non-contender, like if you're Jordan Clarkson for the Utah Jazz, like, and then you bring one of your Instagram models into the room, and then you start an outbreak, like that's gonna end really really bad for you.
Yeah,
Like
if they trace that back to you, it's over.
it's bad for your career. So
Hmm.
they also have to be careful. Like I think once we get into the playoffs, like that's the real thing. Most of the player teams will leave, and then it's gonna open up a lot of space. And then these playoff teams, like once we get to the second round, that's when teams will get serious, and then nobody will be kidding anymore.
Come to think of it, as we get further into the playoffs, doesn't that mean there's like probably less of a chance for an outbreak to happen actually?
Yeah, like once you get into the playoffs, like it's not just the less of a chance, but like the attitudes of the players will mean that they're
True,
not
yeah.
messing around. They really wanna play.
Yeah, I remember like a few days after like one of the teams got into the bubbles, I forgot which. I saw some person tweet out, I already got invited to the NBA bubble. You guys are definitely gonna have an
Yeah,
outbreak. I was like, oh my goodness.
I mean, like they should like see if these services were legal, they could like have them tested ahead of time. Like if you're corona tested, like you're corona free, you come in the bubble, and then
You know, yeah.
like then they should think about these services. It's not just food and
Just,
swimming
just,
pools.
just, just go full Louisville on it. Just go full Louisville on it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Um. Anyway, I guess yeah. I guess that's one vector they have to look out for. But like I said, I'm sure it's you know, and they know these players. That's probably something they've probably already thought of. But
No, maybe
yeah.
they could just like replace. Maybe that it'll end up meaning that players will work even harder because they got nothing to do.
Yeah, decide to play video games and be in ping pong tournaments.
Yeah, like they
Anyway,
have to get that frustration out somewhere, you know.
oh my goodness. Okay, so
Would speaking of the players have nothing to do, I think it would be absolutely hilarious if some of them became VTuber fans.
yeah, I can't wait to see everybody on this. Can't wait to see DeMar DeRozan watching freaking Melody, Project Melody or something. Um,
No, I can't wait for LeBron James to be commenting on VTuber streams.
Is this some anime thing? VTuber?
Yes, yes and no. It's basically like a person, like they do streams like a gamer streams, or like singing, or anything like idolish, but there's an there's an animated figure like in place of them.
just look up Project Melody. That is all.
I'm not gonna look that up.
No, just look up Hololive. Just look up Hololive. It's pretty safe for work, I think.
Yeah, Melody is
Yeah,
not.
it's not safe for my house either. I
Anyway,
don't like.
You'll love it.
so this is another thing that's interesting actually. Um, so Shams tweeted at the NBA's annual performance awards, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Six Man, Defensive Player, etc., will be based upon regular season through March 11th. So, what are you guys' slate for all of those awards now? Since you know that this restart isn't going to have any effect on that
I think they're gonna crown Giannis
MVP.
MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. I think like
Oh, you
they
think
just
he's going to
want
get
him.
both?
Yeah, I think they want him to get both. Like these awards are guarded by hype as much as it is by the performance, and they want a lot of hype into Giannis.
Yeah, I concur. Like they really want the narrative of LeBron, Giannis, Zion, and some select players who can be that guy who can carry the NBA or be the icon of the league. So basically, they probably will give Giannis the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, both of which I think he deserves. But yeah, I don't see him not getting those two awards.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really have a better suggestion for who could get like Defensive Player of the Year. MVP. Yeah, probably also. Yeah, definitely also Giannis. I guess LeBron and Luca kind of are like the runners up for the MVP thing.
I think for Defensive Player of the Year, you'd be looking at Gobert and Davis. Probably these two.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Davis might win, by the way, because of the Laker
He
connection.
yeah he could win it, and I mean he wouldn't be a bad candidate to win it either. But Rookie of the Year, John Morant for sure.
Yeah, he ran away with it.
Yeah,
Not really.
he's.
I think it might be Zion Williamson.
Oh really?
Especially if they do make the playoffs
But it
on the
doesn't.
back of Zion improving
Well,
in these eight
That's the
games.
thing. These 8 games do not affect the
yeah,
awards.
they're only gonna be based upon the regular season through March 11th, is what the
So
tweet said.
Oh.
the
I
media
still
will
think
probably get.
Zion has a shot, but his
Uh,
play his play after the injuries was just so good. Like I get the concerns about his defense and like his shooting, everything, but that package of
And right now,
offensive
nobody knows how
rebounding,
long
like
Zion will be
how he
gone.
draws
It's
fouls,
rookie.
how
It's
he
Steve.
puts pressure on defenses with that his body, his physical attributes, it's just puts him in the conversation for being like a very good player, like just below the all-star level guys.
I just think he didn't play enough games. Like if
yeah,
he
that
was
too.
healthy all season, he'd probably make the All Star team.
Yeah. I think you have to give it to Morant because he's played more games and he's been pretty standout the whole year.
Yeah, true.
Um, so what else? What about like Six Man of the Year?
Who did we have?
Yeah, what was the
Probably
six
Lou
man slate
Williams.
actually?
I think the award is just a meme right now. It just really only is given to good scorers, like nothing else. You don't give it to like great defenders off the bench. You don't really give it to like great passes off the bench. It's basically just scoring, scoring, and scoring.
Yeah, Yeah, it's probably gonna be Lou Williams, huh? Um, was there really nobody? What about? Oh, Dennis Schroeder is an interesting one actually.
That's good.
I don't see it. He's not that flashy. I know like he's doing well and I like him as a player, but eh, I think it's just Lou Williams. Like he catches eyeballs like that scoring off the bench. It just catches the eyeballs of the so-called experts and analysts of
It's so tough.
who
Yeah.
actually have the votes.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably gonna be Lou. Also on the table, Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. Um, no, there's no way Montrez has a chance when Lou Williams is also on the team. Schroeder has an outside chance. He's definitely the runner up to me. Yeah, Schroeder's been great this year. What about Coach of the Year
I just wanted to throw in a name, Marcus Smart,
for DPOI or six man?
sixth man of the year.
Hmm. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I can see your reasoning, but just don't think that I just don't think he's gonna be able to outdo like Lou Williams or Dennis Schroeder. It's really the six man of the year award is mostly like who can score the most, who's also a bad defender.
Yeah,
Like
I know. I was just talking about like people that we three think do deserve the award instead of like what do those analysts vote. So yeah,
fair enough, yeah, yeah. I can see why you would think. Yeah, I would think that I would say it's probably like my top three would be like what Lou Williams, Dennis Schroeder, and then what else was it?
Harold.
Not oh. I was actually thinking like Loki, Derrick Rose.
No, no,
Uh,
no.
he's
Uh,
he's
don't
not
think he's
making
that good.
anything. Are the Pistons even in the playoffs? No.
True.
No,
um,
I just simply don't think Rose is that good. Pretty much, like pretty empty stats.
yeah, but I mean, it's just about who can score the most and have bad defense. What do you guys think about what about most improved player?
It's a tough year.
Doncic, Doncic,
What?
Eh, Doncic?
Doncic.
Explain.
So not
No, like I mean, like this is a lad who went from a top 40, top 50 player. Like last year, he really wasn't exactly an all star level player. Like, and this is a guy who went from that into a top six, top seven player in one of the most stacked seasons in NBA history. Like he's an MVP candidate,
MVP
and that
candidate,
leap
yeah.
is just so big. It's just enormous. That gap from being able to leap from that stage to this level is just absolutely unprecedented. So
Hmm.
yes, I think he deserves the MIP by a landslide.
I guess the only thing I would say that is that he was already really good last year.
Yeah,
That was my point. Like he was good last year, but then he went to a level that like only the very best players are at. So that leap is just so big compared to like maybe like he's trash, but then he went to the level that Doncic was at last year. I think the gap between a top 50 player and a top five player is larger than
huge,
a
yeah.
top 200 player and a top 50
I
player.
think that Doncic was like he was better than top 50. He was definitely top 20 last year.
Right.
No, no, not exactly. I don't think that was the case.
I mean, he was really good last year, dude. Like he was really, really good. Um, I think we may like overestimate maybe how much he improved just because his team is much better now and
Hmm,
is
I'm
altogether
not
doing
sure
much
because
better.
like I think the offense he's leading right now is still like I think it's actually the best regular season offense by offensive rating. I'm not
Right.
sure if it's still holding, but I think it is. Last time I checked
Well,
out,
that's
yes,
partially like a product of his improved team, though.
for sure. But I think it's also a byproduct of him actually getting to that to that next level type of offensive player
Right.
instead of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's definitely improved, but well, let's also take a look at like a couple of other candidates. There's like excuse me, there's like Pascal Siakam, there's a Bam Adebayo. Maybe you could throw. I saw like some Jalen Brown suggestions, but I don't really think that
There's Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Brandon Ingram.
I
Ingram.
don't think Tatum improved that much.
Yeah,
It
I don't think Brown or Tatum really
it wasn't
improved
that
that
much.
much.
I think it's like what
Tatum
you
was in the top 40, top 40, top 30-ish anyways last year,
Yeah.
so and he
Hmm.
just jumped to top 25 or so.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What about like Ingram?
Yeah, he does deserve it. I think I put him in the tier of Jalen Brown in terms of improvement.
So do
I
you think Ingram's had like MIP level improvement though?
I think he was
I
already
think he deserve it in any other year. Like
Mm.
yeah.
any other year, he'd be a
Like
contender. Not this
last
year.
year he was like his improvement last year was better than what we had this year in my opinion.
You mean from like you mean from his last season without LeBron to his first season with
Yeah,
LeBron?
I think that's an even bigger improvement than this year.
Hmm. I don't know. His only season with LeBron like wasn't amazing to me.
That's yeah. Well, later on he really played really well.
So wait, are you talking about his season with LeBron to now?
Yeah, I mean
Oh,
his 2019 season.
okay.
I
So
think
his 2019 season to 2020 season, you think is his biggest improvement?
no 2018 to 2019
Hmm. I don't know if I'd agree with that.
because 2018 he wasn't like that good, but then 2019 like you could see that yeah this is he could be an all star.
Yeah, but he was. It was just like. It was like he just didn't. I don't know, cause maybe it was just because he didn't look so great whenever LeBron was on the floor. Because he didn't play super well with LeBron
The
usually.
thing is like LeBron got injured when Brandon Ingram started to like his improvement is always like after the All Star break or like after December.
Hmm.
That's when he like all of a sudden goes to another level, and that's when LeBron stopped playing.
Yeah, I guess it's
And
definitely not a coincidence that he started improving once LeBron stopped playing. But I think the book was kind of like written on his poor performances with LeBron at that point, and the Lakers were like pretty much in the hole. So I think it's more marked that you have him now versus that last season where the Lakers didn't make the playoffs and he didn't look so great with LeBron, and now he like looks way better. Like kind of he was kind of the man on the Pelicans for the most part of the year. So you kind of think like, well, he went from like not making the playoffs and looking not so great next to LeBron to now he's the man on the Pelicans and they might get the eighth seed. So you think, okay, so maybe there's a little bit more of an improvement there. I mean, I understand why you
I
think what
think
you do, but go ahead.
I think I disagree. I think Ingram's improvement this season is MIP worthy in any other year, but except for this, because you look at his shooting improvement. This is unprecedented. It has
Yeah,
never,
true.
it
Mhm.
almost never happened
Mhm.
before. Like he went from a below average shooter into actually a good one. That leap
Yeah,
from like
that's the biggest
being
thing for
a
me.
pretty poor 3 point shooting to and pretty elite one, a borderline elite one, and free throw shooting, that thing, all of that stuff, like all of those improvements, it's huge. He went
Well,
from an average player into a very good one.
here I can read his shooting splits. Okay, so he went from 33% on 1.8 attempts last in his last season with the Lakers to 38.7% on on six attempts this season, which is incredible improvement. Truly incredible improvement.
And check out his mid-range shooting. That is amazing. Like
His mid-range
he,
shooting has always been pretty good though.
I know, but his mid-range shooting this season is amazing. Like on that sort of efficiency on that sort of volume, pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, his mid I've always even his last season with the Lakers, his mid-range shooting was like pretty solid. But yeah, I mean it's gotten a little bit better. But for me, it's like his three-point shooting has been like absolutely prolific, and it's caused him to up his scoring. So
Yeah.
his
So
free
so
throws got
yeah.
much better too, which is big.
Yeah. So I just see him. Like this improvement is actually MIP worthy
Yeah,
in any other year.
yeah.
True.
It's just that.
Like
Oh,
if you
and
compare it to
who?
Oladipo's year,
Hmm.
I think Ingram's improvement is better.
We also have on the table for MIP Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, that's you see,
That's
that's like a zero
I
to
can't say too much about him, but yeah, I heard nothing but good things about him.
that's
go
like a
ahead,
zero
man.
to 100
Oh
out of
yeah,
MIP.
he went from like okay, look, he went from averaging like 9 points last season on like 9 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists last season to and did he make the playoffs last year?
No,
Yeah, they didn't even make the playoffs and to an all-star, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a block, over a steal and a block. And yeah, I mean, playing more minutes on a better team. Um, so yeah, that I don't know. The Bam Adebayo might be the best, might be the MIP actually, just because he went from like barely doing anything to like being an all-star and averaging a double double. So that one might be our guy. Did I lose connection?
What about Trey Young?
Trey Young.
I Yeah, Trey Young. I think he's really gotten to from like a decent player into an all-star this season.
I mean,
I think so.
I think it's just hard to say because his team hasn't gotten much better. So when you
Yeah,
compare him
his
to
team's
guys
like
who,
it's historically bad. Like
yeah, but
you
like when you
take a
compare
look
him to
at the roster.
guys who have improved, oh, it's Bam Adebayo's birthday today. Happy
I think in
birthday!
terms of like role, like expansion of role, it might be Adebayo.
It's probably got to be him now that I look at it.
But like in terms of, I guess, performance, if you think like the going from a good player to a star, then it's Doncic. But I just think that Doncic, like in terms of what he does, hasn't really changed, but he's just doing it more effectively. Whereas Bam Adebayo, he's just doing so much more.
Right.
But I do see that. But Doncic has went from like being okay, all right, or pretty good from at doing those types of things into doing it at an all-time level. Like I see that improvement as being really amazing instead of like actually learning, like some basic skills that actually any good player has to have.
Yeah, it's a definitely good debate to be had about like whether you think the improvement from being like, well, what was Doncic before the season, like a top 30, 40 type player to being like a top 7 or a top whatever you said type guy, being rather than like being like a zero, like Bam. Well, I don't want to say Bam was a zero last year, but he was like not super great to being like an all-star and like maybe top 50 now. So, I guess when you think about that improvement from like borderline star to like superstar like Doncic, because that really moves the needle for you, compared to just a guy getting like a lot better like Bam. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's how I
that's
see it. Like
yeah,
moving the needle. Like if that improvement like drives a massive improvement for the team, like all by himself, I see that as being more important.
yeah, I understand that. Okay, so what about coach of the year?
Nick Nurse,
Yeah, it's probably got to be Nick Nurse, right? Yeah, I know it's got to be Nick Nurse, absolutely.
Brad Stevens.
he lost the superstar player, and then there's still the second seed.
Yeah, and they haven't missed a step, so yeah, it's got to be Nick
We
Nurse.
also lost just a superstar player. Like I know, like Horford's not on Kawhi's level, but Horford did play at like a top 15, top 20 level last year.
What about Horford?
But he had like Tatum and Brown to really improve.
Yes, I know, but Siakam also improved. Van
Hmm.
Jordan also improved. Like they had players like I
Well, the
forgot
loss.
who what one was Anunoby and
A-
the other I forgot who it
Ananobi.
was. Like the guy who wears the headband. Like those guys popped up out of nowhere.
Oh, Terrence
It
Mann.
wasn't like Toronto did not improve, but again, like I see it as Boston. Like everyone was saying, hey, your defense is going to be shit next year, and it didn't. It wasn't the case. Our offense is top five. Our defense is also top five.
Yeah, some people were saying Frank Vogel, but I don't really agree with that. I think losing a
No,
superstar and then like not missing steps more impressive. Um, yeah. Uh, did we go over all of them? Yeah, we went over
Oh,
MVP.
and just one more thing about Brad Stevens. I think our loss of depth, like actual quality players, that after that star range, it's underrated. Like we lost Marcus Morris. We obviously Rosier. You can be opinions split on him, but we lost Marcus Morris. We lost Baines.
Yeah.
We lost guys like that, and we're still doing well with a pretty poor bench. So and obviously the loss of Horford and downgrading from Kyrie to Kemba. Although I argue that it really
It
isn't
was
a
it wasn't
downgrade.
that much of a downgrade,
Now it
honestly.
wasn't that much of a downgrade,
If
but
anything,
again,
yeah.
like when you look at everything on paper and you see how the Celtics managed to like stay afloat and still be a contender, or like they actually improved in performance this year. If you look at the statistics, they improved across the board. I think actually improving after you lose a superstar is more impressive than staying afloat after losing a superstar.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that. Like you just lost a bunch. You lost a bunch of depth, and like the Raptors, despite losing a superstar, didn't really lose a bunch of depth. And if you think about it, the Raptors in the regular season last year, like Kawhi only played 60 games with the Raptors, right? So, not including the playoffs, but he only played 60 games with the Raptors, right? So the Raptors got a lot of time in the regular season, even before this year, to like learn how to play without Kawhi, and they didn't really lose a whole bunch of depth um, when he left them. So, they still had like Lowry, still have Van Vliet, still have Anunoby, still have Siakam, and Siakam's improvements definitely driven a lot of the Raptors' success. But that's kind of like, with like Jalen Brown and Tatum. Siakam had already kind of shown that he had improved a lot, like in the playoffs, um, when they won the championship. But I think he really, now he's just kind of been able to do that all of this year since he hasn't had to worry about Kawhi being next to him. So yeah, I mean the Raptors didn't lose that much depth, and they kind of found a good amount of depth comparable in talent to replace him. Like Matt Thomas has worked out pretty well for them. Terrence Mann has too. So yeah, they've done a good job there. But once again, I could see the kind of point that you're making, Tofu, about how losing depth could be more impactful or just as impactful as losing a superstar like that, especially when it's like good depth like Marcus Morris or Al Horford.
Yeah, and Tipito Baines.
Oh yeah, Baines of course. Well, what else is there? I think covered a good amount of stuff. We talked about standings in the West and standings in the East and various matchups that could play out. Um, Mang, Tofu, you got any last words to add?
no, I just think that this will be like one of the most historic NBA moments all
Yeah,
time.
there's just gonna be so much to like. There's gonna be like documentaries made about this. There's gonna be, like you said, the writers are right there, the videographers are right there. They can kind of like get inside the life of like the NBA player, in the bubble. And you're gonna see a lot of good videos and stuff coming out on social media, players messing around and doing whatever. So it's almost gonna be like watching a reality TV show at some point, which the NBA does a lot of anyway, but even before the bubble. But now it's gonna be maybe even exaggerated. So that'll be fun. But anyway, at this point we've got 12 days. So once that gets started, we'll definitely talk about that some more. Anything else, Tofu?
Uh, Similar stuff. I'm absolutely buzzing about the restarts, and I think again it's a watershed moment for the NBA. I see it, like being something really special for it. It's kind of like the Amazon documentary for teams like Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. It's going to be very fun to watch as a neutral fan.
Wow, there was this tweet yesterday saying the Nuggets haven't been able to run 5-on-5 and have had to play bull ball at small forward during scrimmages because much of the team is still missing from the bubble. Wow. Imagine that bull ball at small forward. Amazing. Truly the next KD. Well, anyway, I think that'll just about do it. So we might talk about some more stuff once the bubble comes back, but until then, we'll just be waiting eagerly for that. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys around.